So hi, I'm Scott Falconer. I'm going to tell you about the history of the barcode, one of which you have on your DrupalCon badge right here. So to start, let's go back to 1948. There was a student at Drexel University named Bernard Silver who overheard a conversation with a owner of a local grocery store who wanted a way to automate product identification during checkout. Bernard Silver brought the project to his friend Norman Woodland Smith, and they decided to make a go at it. They built an initial first system that used ultraviolet ink to mark the products. Unfortunately, the ink was very, very expensive and faded a lot, so it didn't work, but they realized they were onto something. Woodland, who was 27 at the time, decided to move to his grandfather's house in Florida, where he was going to come up with a solution. So as the way he puts it, he took a chair down to the beach, sat down, kind of thought, how the hell am I going to pull this off? He knew he needed a code. The only code he knew about at the time was Morse code. So he leaned over and he drew Morse code into the sand. Well, when he did it, he happened to pull his hand back and turn the Morse code into lines, which is what gives us what the barcode looks like today. He invented the barcode, dragging his hand through the sand for Morse code. So this is actually in the first patent for the barcode, and there are two different symbologies they use. The vertical one based on the markings of the sand, and then a bullseye type code that could be scanned from any angle. Shortly after the patent was filed, Woodland went on to work at IBM, where they built their first prototype scanner. So the scanner was actually built out of pieces from a movie projector. They connected an oscilloscope to a photo manipulator tube from a movie projector, shined a 500-watt light at it, and could make the signal go on and off as they moved the code along. Unfortunately, that set the codes on fire a lot, so it didn't work as well as they had hoped, and the scanner was the size of a desk. They shelved it and decided to come back at a later date. About 10 years later, a guy named David Collins came along, and he did the next iteration of the barcode using train cars, tracking trains. So it worked very much in similar ways as the first code, but it wasn't a black and white code. It was actually a colored reflective code that was put through a filter so they could have multiple channels of the data. And you can see the code right there. It's a little dirty. And that was one of the problems with it. As these codes got dirty, they didn't work. In the first 2 years, they eventually got up to 95% of all train cars in North America. A couple years later, they pulled it back because of the accuracy errors. So in 1966, the National Association of Grocers decided they wanted to have a standardized system that would allow them to automate the checkout process. So RCA at this point had purchased the original patent, and they had a variation of the bullseye patent. They started getting some press about it, a lot was taken off, and IBM noticed. So IBM decided they wanted to make their own variation of the patent. Fortunately, they remembered that Woodland still worked at IBM, and they built theirs as a vertical code. So RCA's bullseye code had some very real problems though, as they were printing the tags out. The motion of the printing on the paper would actually blur the tag, and so it was unreadable. IBM's tag didn't have that problem. The code would only get taller, so it was the one that was selected to be the standard UPC barcode. And that's where the term 1D or one-dimensional tags come from. So the first scan was in 1974, so fairly recently, on a Wrigley's gum package. But it didn't take off very, very well at first. Only about 200 stores had it the first year. Phil Donahue on TV rallied against it as a corporate plot against consumers. But by 1980, 8,000 stores a year were adding the tag to all of their products, and you'd be very hard fought to find a product in a store today that does not have a tag on it. Stores like Walmart, for better or worse, would not be possible in their current form if they did not have barcode or barcode type technology. So as these tags matured, people realized that they needed more out of them. They needed smaller tags, faster tags, ones that could hold more data. So that's where a number of new symbologies came out. The number one format used today is the QR code, which is the one you have on your tag right now. And these can hold a lot of data. The biggest ones can hold up to 4,000 characters. So that's the Gettysburg Address nearly 3 times within this tag. But they still hold true to the original barcodes, that they're cheap and easy to produce. So you can replicate them in many, many ways. So here's a different variation of symbology in a field. This one actually returns the terms "Hello World" as you scan it. So the thing to keep in mind is that these tags, they're cheap, they're easy to use, but unlike anybody previously in history, You can produce these at home very, very easily. And every one of us, for the most part, is walking around with a scanner, barcode scanner in our pocket. It's not the size of a desk and it doesn't set things on fire. So.